When I went to visit my daughter-in-law's family, I asked my son to stop at a nearby store to pick up a cake. Out of nowhere, the cashier grabbed my hand and whispered something unbelievable. I slipped through the back door and kept watching him. Just 5 minutes later. Let me tell you, there are some moments in life that just punch you in the gut, leaving you gasping for air and wondering if everything you thought you knew was a lie. For me, that moment came in a grocery store, when a stranger whispered words that didn't just rattle my world, they shattered it into a million pieces. Words about my own son and the family he'd married into. It all started innocently enough. I was at the grocery store, just trying to buy a cake. You know, a small treat, something nice for a family visit. I'm Adeline Thorne, 67 years old, and honestly, every dollar is counted twice, sometimes 3 times, before I spend it. But this cake, it was for my son, Owen, and his wife Sienna's family. I wanted to make a good impression. As I stood at the checkout, the cashier, an older gentleman, probably my age, suddenly took my arm. His eyes, they had this unsettling intensity, and he leaned in close, whispering something about Owen, about Sienna's family. What he said, it hit me like a physical blow, leaving me frozen, completely paralyzed. He let go, just went back to scanning groceries as if he hadn't just dropped a bomb on my entire existence. But I stood there, the receipt trembling in my hand, trying to make sense of the words swirling in my head. I had to get out. I walked out the back entrance, needing air, needing space to think. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. Could it possibly be true? Or was it just some misunderstanding from a stranger who didn't know us? I needed to know, so I found myself hiding behind some trash dumpsters in the parking lot. From there, I could watch without being seen. If what I'd heard was true, I'd see it with my own eyes. Owen was waiting for me in the car, oblivious, and I had a perfect view of the main entrance. The cashier's words, they were just looping in my mind, a relentless, painful hum. Barely 2 minutes later, I saw something that made me question everything I thought I knew about Sienna's family. Leonard, Sienna's father, walked out. He was carrying bags, heavy ones, but they weren't your typical grocery bags. These were from a high-end store, a place I'd only ever glimpsed from a distance, a place I could never even dream of shopping at. The store's name, shimmering in gold on those black bags, held with such casual ease, like it was the most normal thing in the world for him. My heart started thumping even faster. He walked to a car parked just a few feet from my hiding spot. And it wasn't the old, beat-up vehicle they always complained about when asking for help. Oh no. This was a brand new, gleaming car, a light color that shone under the afternoon sun. The tires looked factory fresh, not a single scratch on the paint. I watched him open the trunk, carefully placing the bags inside, like someone protecting something precious. Then he pulled out his phone, started talking, his body language so relaxed, so completely devoid of any urgent financial worry. That's when it all came flooding back. All the time Sienna had called Owen, always the same story. Can't pay rent. Leonard's medical expenses. Not enough food for the week. And my kind-hearted son, he always found a way to send them something. But what I was seeing right then, it didn't match those desperate stories. The expensive bags, the new car, Leonard's easy demeanor, it all contradicted the version they'd been feeding us for months. A cold dread started spreading through me. Could they really have been lying this whole time? Leonard ended his call, looked around the parking lot, carefully scanning, as if making sure no one had seen him. That cautiousness, it felt so suspicious. My gut told me there was more to uncover. I needed to be absolutely sure before I talked to Owen. As I stayed hidden, my mind went back to that morning. I'd woken up with this mix of excitement and nerves. It had been months since I'd seen Sienna's family. I wanted to bring something special. I went in my small kitchen, opened the jar where I kept my savings. Counting those coins, those wrinkled bills, it was always a painful ritual. I'd saved them for weeks, sacrificing little things, a coffee, a magazine. I had exactly $43. 20% of that was for the cake. The rest? My meds, basic groceries for the week. I showered, put on my best dress, simple, clean, but it made me feel presentable. I tried to hide the gray in my hair, put on the fake pearl earrings my late mother gave me. Looking in the mirror, I saw a woman who'd worked her whole life, raised her son alone, and was now just trying to hold a family together that seemed to value money more than anything else. Owen picked me up right on time. He was always punctual, a quality I admired. He seemed a little tense in the car, but I figured it was just nerves about the family visit. We talked about trivial things, his office job, his boss. But he completely avoided Sienna or her family, which was odd. Usually, he'd update me on how things were going. When we got near their neighborhood, I asked him to stop at the grocery store for the cake. He offered to come in, but I said no, I'd be quick. Inside, I chose a simple vanilla cake. $18. Two less than I'd budgeted, which meant I could buy a little greeting card too. It was at the checkout that everything exploded. The cashier scanned the cake. I tried to use my credit card first, knowing it would be rejected. No funds. Then I pulled out the cash. That's when he looked at me, really looked at me. He whispered my name, Adeline Thorne, and asked if I was Owen's mother. When I confirmed it, his expression changed completely. Worried. Almost scared. What he told me next, after grabbing my arm, I'll never forget. He said Sienna's family came in regularly, spending hundreds on imported products, premium meats, while constantly asking my son for money. He knew because Leonard, Sienna's father, often bragged, with a certain pride, about how Owen helped them financially every month. He'd seen Leonard buy bottles of wine that cost more than my entire week's food budget. Sienna, he said, frequently bought expensive beauty products and designer clothes, always paying in cash. It seemed unfair, he told me, that a family indulging in such luxuries was exploiting the generosity of a hard-working son and his elderly mother. He spoke up because he'd seen me carefully counting my coins for a simple cake, while they spent without a care. His own mother, he said, went through something similar, and he regretted not acting sooner. I left the store in a daze. My mind refused to process it. For years, I'd trusted Sienna and her family. I'd watched Owen worry, work extra hours, and I'd even contributed my own small savings. But the cashier's words had planted a seed of doubt, and it was growing fast. That's why I hid. I needed to see for myself. Behind those dumpsters, the smell of garbage wasn't pleasant, but it was a small price to pay for the truth. When Leonard emerged again with those expensive bags, my chest tightened. A single purchase from that store could easily be my entire month's grocery budget. He walked with such confidence, his clothes new, shoes shined, watch expensive. Nothing about him suggested poverty. And the car, definitely new, gleamed under the sun. It could cost more than I'd seen in my entire life. How could someone with a car like that need constant financial help? I watched him on the phone again. His conversation was relaxed, cheerful. This wasn't a man worried about money. This was a satisfied, comfortable man. Then, all the little inconsistencies I'd ignored over the past months clicked into place. Sienna casually mentioning expensive restaurants, always invitations from friends. Comments about new clothes, incredible sales. Social media photos showing a lifestyle that didn't match their constant pleas for help. Leonard finished his call and headed back into the store, unhurried. As I watched him, I heard voices. Two elderly women, pushing their carts. At first, I paid no mind, but then I heard Sienna's name, and my ears perked up. Did you see Sienna's new dress yesterday? One, a woman with gray hair, my age, asked. Must have been at least $200. I saw an identical one in that expensive store. The other woman, thinner, with glasses, replied with a knowing tone, and that's not all, Hermione. I saw her buying French beauty products. My granddaughter works there. Sienna's a frequent customer. Spends like money grows on trees. My heart hammered. These women were talking about the same Sienna who cried poverty to my son, who called last week for money for her father's medicine. Hermione continued, what gets me is she's always buying new things, but then tells everyone in the neighborhood they're having such hard financial times. My friend Leonard works at the bank, and he says their deposits don't match the poverty story at all. Oh, Hermione, that's just gossip, the other woman replied, though her tone suggested doubt. But I do admit, it's strange they can afford the rent on that big house if they're as bad off as they say. Gossip. Hermione scoffed. My daughter lives on the same block. Says almost every week, delivery trucks from the city's most expensive grocery store arrive. Purchases any of us would take months to afford. They walked away, their voices fading, but I caught fragments of more. Parties Sienna's family hosted, with abundant, high-quality food, imported wines, expensive decorations. Every word was a stab. I'd felt so sorry for them, worried for them, asked my son to help, even sacrificed my own small savings. I remembered Sienna crying on the phone, saying they had to choose between medicine or food for Leonard. That night, I hadn't slept. The next day, I withdrew $150 from my emergency savings, money I was saving for my own medical emergency, and gave it to her. Now, hearing about their luxurious life, I felt like the biggest fool. How could I have been so naive? How had I missed the signs that were apparently obvious to the whole neighborhood? Leonard came out again, a smaller bag this time. He stopped to talk to a man washing a car. They seemed friendly. Leonard handed him something, money, several bills, without apparent effort. If they were truly struggling, how could he so easily give money to strangers? My phone vibrated. Owen. A text asking why I was taking so long. I'd completely forgotten him. I quickly lied, said the line was long. Lying to my son hurt, but I needed more time. I couldn't just blurt out my suspicions without more proof. Leonard got into his car, the engine starting with a smooth, powerful sound. He drove off with a tranquility that completely contradicted their image of financial desperation. I walked back to Owen's car, trying to act normal. But my mind was racing, connecting all the strange details I'd overlooked. When I got in, Owen looked concerned. Mom, are you okay? You look pale. Just the line, son, I said, trying to steady my voice. You know how grocery stores are on weekends. Inside, my heart was a drum. Owen started the car, heading to Sienna's. I tried to keep up normal conversation, but my mind was stuck on what I'd just witnessed. How's Leonard's job been? I asked, trying to sound casual. Sienna said things were difficult for him. Owen sighed. Yeah, Mom. Sienna told me her dad had to reduce his hours. That's why we've been helping them a little more. That didn't match the prosperous man I'd just seen. A truly worried man wouldn't be shopping at expensive stores or handing out cash. And how do you feel about that, son? I pressed, watching him in the rearview mirror. You've been working a lot of extra hours. Well, Mom, they're my family now, he replied, a mix of tiredness and resignation in his voice. Sienna's my wife, and when you get married, you marry into the family. If they need help, it's my duty to help them. His words broke my heart. My kind son, sacrificing for people who I was increasingly sure were taking advantage of him. We arrived at their neighborhood. Well-maintained houses, manicured lawns. Not the most luxurious, but definitely not a place for people in extreme financial distress. As Owen parked, I got a better look at their house. 2 stories, a well-decorated front lawn, freshly painted facade, new curtains, renovated front door. The house looks very well kept, I commented. Didn't you say they were having trouble paying for repairs? Oh yeah, Owen replied. Leonard managed to get some extra weekend work for urgent repairs. He's been working a lot. Another story that didn't add up. Extra shifts to survive, yet he's grocery shopping at an expensive store during work hours? And spending money on luxury goods? We got out, Owen carrying some things, me with my cake, a mix of nervousness and growing curiosity. Before we could ring, the door opened, and Sienna appeared with a radiant smile. Total shock. Her appearance was completely transformed from a month ago. A dress, definitely not cheap, excellent fabric, perfect cut, vibrant colors, elegant, sophisticated. New, shiny shoes, a matching handbag. But her hair and makeup. Professional cut, expensive salon highlights, flawless makeup, requiring high-quality products and time. Adeline, what a joy to see you. Sienna exclaimed, coming in for a hug. I caught the scent of her perfume, a costly fragrance I recognized, once seen priced at 2 weeks of my food budget. Hello, Sienna, I managed, hiding my surprise. You look great. That dress is beautiful. This old dress, she laughed, a little forced. Bought it on clearance months ago. You know how it is, Adeline, when you find good deals, you have to take advantage. That explanation was exactly what the woman at the grocery store had mentioned. Always a justification. How many extraordinary coincidences could one family have? Inside, I noticed more details that screamed inconsistency. The living room redecorated. New, expensive-looking leather sofa, gleaming glass coffee table, not cheap decorative objects. A huge, new flat-screen TV. A recent model, thousands of dollars. How could a family in a financial crisis explain a luxury TV? Dad, look who came to visit, Sienna called. Leonard appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands. He saw me, a flicker in his eyes, like he saw something he didn't expect, then quickly regained his smile. Adeline, so good to see you. Hope you're hungry. Sienna's prepared a delicious meal. It was the same Leonard from the grocery store, but now acting like he'd been home all day. His clothes were the same, but he'd put an apron over his shirt, as if he'd been cooking. I brought a cake, I said, handing him the box. What a lovely gesture, Sienna exclaimed. But it wasn't necessary. You know you're always welcome here without having to bring a thing. Over her shoulder, I saw into the kitchen. Counters full of ingredients, utensils, suggesting elaborate prep. Expensive cuts of meat, fresh, exotic vegetables, imported seasonings. Enough food to feed a family for days, and the quality far superior to what I could afford. Did you two prepare all this? I asked, genuinely impressed by the abundance. Well, we wanted to do something special for your visit, Leonard replied. Besides, we got some ingredients on sale, so we decided to take advantage. The miraculous sales again. I wondered if this family had an extraordinary knack for finding deals, or if these were just excuses. Owen seemed oblivious, chatting animatedly with Sienna. His relaxed attitude confirmed he believed their narrative. But I couldn't ignore the evidence. Every detail pointed to the same unsettling conclusion. They were not in financial difficulties. During lunch, I tried to maintain a normal conversation, discreetly observing. The table was set with good quality dinnerware. The food was abundant, varied. Leonard poured wine into crystal glasses, a wine I recognized as over $50 a bottle. This wine is delicious, I commented, fishing for info. Is it a special brand? Oh, this one. Leonard smiled proudly. A friend who works in imports got it for me at a special price. Normally, we couldn't afford wines like this, but when these opportunities come up, you have to take advantage. Always a perfect explanation. A generous friend, an incredible deal. How many generous friends, how many extraordinary deals? Sienna then casually mentioned plans for a family celebration next month, an event that, by her description, would require a considerable investment in decorations, food, and entertainment. Sounds expensive, I said, without thinking. Expensive? Sienna laughed. Well, we've been saving for this for months. Besides, Leonard got an extra job that will help us cover the expenses. I remembered Leonard spending money freely at the grocery store, driving a new car. What kind of extra job? What kind of extra job did you get, Leonard? I asked directly. A flash of discomfort crossed his face, but he quickly recovered. Weekend consulting, he replied vaguely. Nothing too exciting, but it helps supplement the family income. His answer was so general, it meant nothing. A real consultant would have more specifics. Sienna's phone vibrated constantly. Every time she looked, she smiled significantly. At one point, thinking no one saw, she replied quickly, a look of satisfaction on her face. Everything okay with the phone? I asked. Oh, just some friends organizing a get-together, she said, quickly putting it away. But her smile suggested something more meaningful. After lunch, Leonard offered to show me house improvements. New or renovated elements in every room. Polished floors, fresh paint, new furniture. In the master bedroom, on the dresser, were several unopened shopping bags from expensive stores. Price tags I glimpsed showed exorbitant numbers. Sienna went shopping recently? I asked discreetly. Leonard laughed nervously. Incredible clearance sales this week. Sometimes it's better to buy things when they're on sale, even if you don't need them immediately. That logic was completely contradictory. A family truly in financial difficulty wouldn't be buying things they didn't immediately need. As we returned to the living room, my phone rang. An unrecognized number. It was the grocery store cashier. He'd gotten my number somehow and sent a photo, a grocery receipt from 2 days earlier. Total, over $400. Premium products, imported meats, fresh seafood, expensive wines, gourmet cheeses. The name on the receipt, Leonard Williams. The message, Mrs. Thorne, I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should see this. Your family needs to know the truth. My heart pounded. Black and white evidence. A $400 luxury purchase just 2 days before. By the same man supposedly struggling. I quickly hid my phone. My mind was connecting all the dots. Are you feeling okay, Mom? Owen asked, noticing my expression. You look a little pale. Just a little tired, I lied. Not used to such long outings. Sienna immediately offered tea. Her apparent concern would have been touching if I hadn't begun to understand her true nature. For the next hour, I observed, listening, mentally cataloging every inconsistency. The list grew. Sienna's new clothes, Leonard's car, the house, the food, the wine, the shopping bags, the receipt. But what hurt most was the realization that this had likely been going on for months, maybe years. How much money had Owen sent? How many sacrifices had he made? How many had I made to help people who didn't need it? When we finally left, my mind was made up. This farce had to end. Owen deserved the truth, however painful. I had to protect him. During the drive home, Owen commented on how nice the visit had been, how well Sienna's family looked. His words were daggers. I knew I was about to shatter that happy image. Yes, they look very well, I replied carefully. Maybe too well for a family going through such severe difficulties. The drive was one of the hardest of my life. Every mile physically distanced me from their house, but emotionally brought me closer to a life-changing decision. Owen drove calmly, even whistling. For him, it had been a pleasant afternoon. He had no idea I'd been collecting evidence of an elaborate scam. Mom, he said at a traffic light, I'm so glad to see you get along so well with Sienna's family. I know you had reservations, but I think now you can see what good people they are. His words crushed me. My son, being manipulated. How could I tell him the people he trusted were probably professional liars? Owen, I began carefully. Have you ever noticed anything inconsistent in Sienna's stories about their financial situation? He glanced at me. What do you mean, Mom? Inconsistent? How? Well, I continued, choosing my words meticulously. Today, I noticed a lot of new things in the house. The television, some furniture, Sienna's clothes. All of that costs a considerable amount of money. Owen sighed. I could see my comment had struck a nerve. Mom, I already explained Leonard's been getting extra jobs. And Sienna's good at finding deals. Not everything new is expensive. But don't you think it's strange that a family needing constant help for basic expenses can afford so many luxuries at the same time? I insisted, trying to keep my tone neutral, non-accusatory. They're not luxuries, Mom, he replied, defensiveness creeping in. They're basic needs, they've met thanks to a lot of effort and sacrifice. The TV was secondhand, the furniture a one-time opportunity, Sienna's clothes from clearance. Each justification was identical to what Leonard and Sienna had said. Like they'd rehearsed. I tried a different tack. Son, have you seen any receipts or documents confirming these incredible deals? Or have you gone with Sienna when she finds these bargains? The question clearly made him uncomfortable. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Mom, these questions. Sienna is my wife. If she tells me she got something on sale, I believe her. Marriage is based on trust. His answer confirmed my suspicion. He had never seen direct evidence. He blindly believed them because he trusted the people he loved. Of course, son, I replied softly. Trust is fundamental. But it's also important to protect yourself from people who might take advantage of that trust. Are you insinuating that Sienna and her family are deceiving me? He asked, now clearly annoyed. Mom, that's a very serious accusation. I'm not accusing anyone, I said quickly, realizing I'd pushed too hard. I'm just expressing concerns as a mother who loves you and wants to see you happy and prosperous. The rest of the drive was intensely silent. Owen was processing, but his expression showed more resistance than reflection. Any criticism of Sienna was a personal attack. At my apartment, Owen helped me out, but his goodbye hug was colder. "Mom," he said before leaving, "I hope you can give Sienna's family a chance. They're good people doing their best." "I'll keep that in mind, son," I replied, knowing he'd misinterpret my response. That night, alone in my small apartment, I sat in my armchair with tea, organizing the thoughts bombarding me. I had circumstantial evidence, neighbor testimonies, personal observations, even the $400 receipt. But I also had a son utterly convinced his wife and her family were victims. Any direct confrontation resulted in resistance. I looked at the receipt again. Over $400 in luxury goods, 2 days before. More than my entire month's food. I remembered Owen, stressed, working extra hours. My own savings contributed. The indignation I'd held back all day finally erupted. It wasn't just the money, it was the emotional manipulation, the systematic exploitation, the calculated web of lies. It pained me to think they'd been laughing at us. But what tortured me most was what to do. The evidence was there, but Owen needed irrefutable proof. If I acted too quickly, I'd alienate him. If I waited too long, the manipulation would continue. I decided I needed more. Proof so clear, so undeniable, Owen couldn't deny it. My own discreet investigation. The next days were the hardest in years. Every interaction with Owen was an exercise in self-control. The evidence weighed on me. The grocery store cashier sent 3 more messages. Photos of more receipts. One over $600, 2 bottles of French champagne, imported seafood, gourmet cheeses. The date? The same day Sienna had called Owen asking for urgent rent money. Hermione, the neighbor, also contacted me. She'd gotten my number. Sienna's family, she said, threw regular parties with professional catering, expensive decorations. Leonard's birthday party alone cost thousands. My daughter sees delivery trucks constantly, she told me on the phone. Clothes, appliances, furniture. Not normal for a family in crisis. Each new piece of information made it harder to stay silent. But I needed the right moment. It came on a Wednesday night. Owen came to visit, looking exhausted, stressed. Sienna had asked for additional money for Leonard's medical emergency. "He needs a minor surgery," Owen explained, rubbing his temples. "Insurance doesn't cover everything. They need $200 by Friday." I've been working double shifts all week. That was the last straw. $200 for a supposed medical emergency from the same family who spent $600 on champagne days earlier. My son wouldn't sacrifice himself anymore. "Owen," I said, taking his hands. "I need to show you something. Before I do, I want you to know I'm doing this because I love you and I can't stand to see you hurting." I showed him the first $400 receipt. His eyes widened. Before he could speak, I showed him the others, the $600 one. "Mom, where did you get this?" he asked, confusion and denial warring in his expression. "How do you know these are real?" I explained my encounter with the cashier, the neighbors' conversations, my observations during our visit. Slowly, carefully, presenting each piece of evidence logically. "But there has to be an explanation," Owen insisted, his voice less convinced now. "Maybe Leonard had a good month, or they received money from another source." "Son," I replied gently, "these luxury purchases were made on the same day Sienna called you asking for help with basic expenses. Doesn't that seem like too much of a coincidence?" I watched the realization dawn. His eyes moved between the photos and my face, desperately seeking a way to reconcile what he was seeing with what he'd believed. "Besides," I continued, showing him information about the expensive parties. "The neighbors have seen how this family really lives. It's not the desperate poverty they've been telling you." Owen got up, pacing my small living room. I could see his mind working, recalling past conversations, broken promises, small inconsistencies he'd ignored or rationalized. "But why would they do this?" he finally asked, his voice defeated. "Why would Sienna lie to me?" "Because it worked," I said honestly. "Because you've been sending money regularly without asking questions, trusting their word. For them, you're a reliable source of additional income to maintain a lifestyle they couldn't otherwise afford." Tears welled in his eyes. Seeing his pain broke my heart, but it was necessary to free him. "How much money have I given them in total?" he asked, afraid of the answer. We were at the moment of truth. "According to what you've told me, probably more than $5,000, I said, "and that's not counting what I've given them." The number hit him like a physical punch. Months of extra work, sacrifices, lost opportunities. All for people who had systematically deceived him. "I need to talk to Sienna," he said, a new determination in his voice. "I need to confront her, hear her explanation." "Are you sure you're ready for that conversation?" I asked. "Once you put this on the table, there's no turning back. Your relationship will change forever." Owen was silent for several minutes, looking at the photos again and again, processing not just the money, but the emotional implication of being deceived by the person he loved. "Mom," he said finally, "thank you for showing me this. I know it must have been difficult, but you were right. I needed to know the truth." I hugged him tightly, a mix of relief and worry. The truth was out. Now, the hardest part, facing the consequences. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I'm going home tonight, and I'm going to have a very serious conversation with my wife," he replied, with a firmness I hadn't heard in him in a long time. "And depending on what she says, I'm going to make some important decisions about our future." Owen left that night with a new determination. I stayed awake, wondering how it would unfold. At 2 a.m., my phone rang. It was Owen. His voice was completely different, pain, anger, but also something that sounded like relief. "Mom," he said, no preamble. "You were right about everything. Completely." "What happened, son?" I asked, already guessing. When I got home, I decided to check some things before talking to her. I went to our room, looked through her things, something I'd never done because I trusted her completely. What I found left me speechless. He'd found several shopping bags hidden in the closet, all from expensive stores, with receipts for hundreds of dollars in clothes and accessories. Jewelry he'd never seen her wear, still with price tags. But that wasn't the worst part. "Mom." In her purse, I found a notebook. She'd written down all the money she'd asked me for over the past 2 years. Every lie, every emergency, every invented story. Documented, like it was a job. My heart sank. Worse than I imagined. They'd been meticulously tracking their scam. "And what else was in that notebook?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Plans to ask for more money," Owen replied bitterly. She'd noted the next story would be a dental emergency for her mother, $1,800. She even had notes on how to make me feel guilty if I doubted her or asked too many questions. The cold calculation sickened me. Not mistakes, but systematic manipulation. "And when did you confront her?" I asked. "At first, she tried to deny everything," he continued. "Said the purchases were gifts, the notebook was for household expenses, that I was misinterpreting it all. But when I showed her your photos of the grocery store receipts, her strategy changed." "How?" She got furious. Yelled that I had no right to go through her things, that my family had never really accepted her, and it was all your fault for putting ideas in my head. Said you'd always been a meddling mother-in-law trying to destroy our marriage. The accusations hurt, but didn't surprise me. Typical manipulator tactics. But what impacted me most, Owen went on, was when she finally admitted the truth. She told me her family had never been in a financial crisis. That Leonard has a stable, well-paying job. That it had all been a strategy to take advantage of my generosity. She used that word specifically, Mom. Take advantage. She said I was easy to convince, and that my family had money we could afford to share, as if we were responsible for maintaining their luxurious lifestyle. The conversation continued for over an hour. Owen recounted every detail. A picture emerged, a family that had turned deception into a way of life. I also called Leonard during the argument, Owen told me. I wanted to hear his version. At first, he stuck to the original story, but when I told him I knew the truth, he admitted everything too. And what did Leonard say? He said they'd decided from the beginning I was a good match for Sienna because I had a stable job and a family who could help them financially. He told me it was never personal, that it was just business, as if that made everything okay. The coldness of that admission left me speechless. They hadn't just deceived my son, they'd seen him as a source of income, not a human being. And what did Sienna say when her father admitted everything? I asked. That was the most revealing part of the whole night. Owen replied with a bitter laugh. She got mad at him for ruining the plan. She wasn't angry because the lies had hurt our marriage, but because her father had confessed and ruined her ability to continue deceiving me. Owen discovered more details. The supposed medical emergencies were fabricated. Leonard's work problems invented. The incredible deals were simply them buying what they wanted with the money Owen sent. What hurts me most, Mom, he said, isn't just the money I lost. It's realizing that for 2 years of marriage, I never really knew the woman I married. Everything was an act designed to keep me giving them money. And what are you going to do now, son? I asked, knowing the answer. I've already told Sienna our marriage is over tonight. There's no way to rebuild trust after such a systematic and calculated betrayal. Tomorrow, I'm going to start the divorce proceedings. My heart ached for him, but I knew it was the right decision. I also made it very clear they won't get another cent from our family, Owen continued. And I told her if they try to contact you, you should tell them exactly what I think of their methods. Of course, son, I assured him. That family will never again receive help from us. Mom, Owen said before hanging up. Thank you for having the courage to show me the truth. I know it must have been difficult for you, but you saved me from years more of being used and manipulated. I sat in the darkness, processing everything. The truth had come to light, but at a high cost. His marriage ended, his trust betrayed, his life to rebuild. But I also knew the truth had freed him from a situation that would only have worsened. Sienna and her family would never have stopped. The months that followed were a process of healing for our family. Owen temporarily moved into a small apartment. I was there for him, offering emotional support. The divorce revealed even more. Sienna had hidden significant assets, a secret bank account, valuable items. Mom, Owen told me during one of our weekly meals, the lawyer calculated that over our 2 years of marriage, I sent them more than $15,000. $15,000 I could have used for a house, for my future, or to help you. The number hit me deeply. Years of his honest work, sacrificed for people who saw him as easy money. But I was also proud to see him mature through this pain. Sienna and her family tried to contact me. Leonard called, begging me to intercede, promising to return the money. His pleas sounded desperate, but I recognized the manipulation. Leonard, I told him during the last call I accepted, you had 2 years to be honest with my son. You chose lies, manipulation, deceit. Now you live with the consequences. Sienna also made a final manipulation attempt, showing up at my apartment unannounced, dressed simply, no makeup, trying to project vulnerability. But I knew her techniques too well. Adeline, she said, with seemingly rehearsed tears, I know we made mistakes, but I really loved Owen. This all got out of control. Sienna, I replied with surprising calm, real love doesn't include systematic lies and calculated manipulation. What you did wasn't love. It was exploitation disguised as love. She tried various approaches: repentant victim, desperate wife, daughter-in-law wanting to mend. Each strategy only confirmed her true nature. The money you took from my son isn't just money, I explained. It represented his trust, his future, his ability to believe in people. That can't be returned with apologies or promises. Finally, after an hour of failed manipulation, she showed her true colors. Her expression changed, and she told me coldly, I always knew you were the problem in this marriage. Owen would have been happy if you hadn't meddled. Maybe, I replied calmly, but he would have been happy while being deceived and exploited. I prefer him to be temporarily unhappy but free, than happy but used. After that, I never heard from them again. Hermione told me they moved out weeks later, probably to avoid the embarrassment. Owen's recovery was gradual. At first, he was angry at himself. But with time, he understood his generosity and trust weren't weaknesses, but valuable qualities exploited by unscrupulous people. Mom, he told me one day, I realized something important. Generosity must be accompanied by wisdom, and trust must be earned, not given blindly. With the money he no longer had to send, Owen started rebuilding his finances. savings, investments. He could finally enjoy small luxuries without guilt. He also helped me. Insisted on buying me new appliances, visited more often, bringing good quality food. It's ironic, he reflected one day. All this time, I was worried about helping a family that didn't need help, while you, who could have used more support, never asked for anything. That moved me deeply. I'd watched him exhaust himself, silently keeping my own needs to myself. 6 months after the divorce, Owen found a new balance. He was more cautious, wiser, but still capable of trusting those who deserved it. "Mom," he said during a walk, "thank you again for having the courage to show me the truth." "Son," I replied, "a mother must always protect her children, even when it hurts. My job isn't just to love you, but to make sure the people you love truly deserve you." The grocery store cashier, Eli, became an unexpected friend. He visited, asking how things turned out. "My mother went through something similar, Mrs. Thorne," he told me. No one had the courage to tell her. She lost all her savings. That's why I decided to talk to you. Some truths hurt, but silence hurts more. Looking back, I feel a mix of pain for what Owen suffered, but also deep pride for his strength. I learned that true family love sometimes requires the courage to speak difficult truths, to confront uncomfortable situations, to protect those we love, even if it means destroying illusions. That day, when I heard those strange words and decided to observe instead of ignore, I changed the course of our lives forever. One of the most difficult decisions, but also one of the most correct. 2 years have passed. Owen got remarried 6 months ago to Regina, a hardworking, honest woman from his office. What I love about her is her transparency and how she respects my relationship with my son. She's never tried to interfere, never shown interest in our finances. The first time she came for dinner, she brought ingredients for us to cook together. "Adeline," she told me, "I want you to know I will never ask you or Owen for money. I believe in working for what I need." Her words moved me to tears. I realized how traumatized I'd been by Sienna, constantly analyzing people, looking for manipulation. Owen's healing wasn't easy. He went through periods of depression, questioning if he could ever trust anyone again. "Mom," he'd ask during late-night calls, "how can I be sure I won't be deceived again?" Those conversations broke my heart, seeing how Sienna's betrayal had damaged his fundamental ability to trust. But I was proud to see him rebuild his confidence in a more mature, wiser way. He developed a verification system. Before helping financially, he'd ask for documentation, talk to multiple sources, evaluate consistency. I thought he might be too distrustful, but he'd simply learned to balance generosity with practical wisdom. He no longer gave out of emotional impulse. When a coworker asked for help for a fake emergency, Owen asked for medical documents, spoke to the hospital. The story was false. "Mom," he told me, 2 years ago, "I would have sent the money without a single question." Now I understand that verifying isn't distrusting. It's protecting yourself. I also processed my own feelings. For months, I felt guilty for waiting. But I realized I acted at the right time when I had enough evidence. Eli, the cashier, became a dear friend, visiting with his wife Marlene. "What I admire most," Eli told me, "is how you handled the truth. Many would have made a scene, yelled, sought revenge. But you simply presented the facts and let the truth do its job." His words made me reflect. Silent dignity is more powerful than noisy revenge. I never sought to hurt Sienna. I simply stopped allowing them to hurt us. Hermione, the neighbor, also became a close friend. She helped me understand these family scams are common. "My son-in-law works in social services," she told me, "and he says these kinds of family scams are more common than people think." We weren't naive. We were targets of experts. The financial impact was significant, $15,000 in total. But once the money stopped flowing, our finances improved dramatically. Owen saved for a down payment on a small house. He asked me to live with him and Regina, but I prefer my independence, though with better furniture and appliances he insisted on buying. "Mom," he told me, bringing the new refrigerator, "for years, I watched you count coins while I sent hundreds of dollars to people who didn't need them. Now, it's your turn to have the things you deserve." Regina is not only a good wife, but a considerate daughter-in-law. She never competes with my place in Owen's life, always includes me. The difference from Sienna is stark. Last month, Regina confided they're expecting their first child. The news filled me with pure joy. This grandchild will grow up where honesty and integrity are fundamental, not lies and manipulation. I want our child to know you as the grandmother who had the courage to protect our family, Regina told me, holding my hand. Owen has told me the whole story, and I deeply admire what you did. Sometimes, I wonder what if I hadn't hidden behind those dumpsters. How long would the deception have continued? Would Owen have ever discovered the truth, or would he have been exploited indefinitely? I'll never know. But I do know that the courage to face uncomfortable truths is one of the most important responsibilities we have for those we love. I reflected on the signs I'd ignored, the convenient explanations. My gut tried to warn me. I silenced it, not wanting conflict. I've learned that family peace shouldn't come at the cost of exploitation. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is creating the necessary conflict to protect those who matter most. Today, at 69, I feel wiser and stronger than I have in decades. Not just for saving my son, but for proving it's never too late to be brave. True strength isn't avoiding problems, but facing them with dignity. The most difficult decisions are often the most correct ones. As I finish writing, I hear Owen and Regina laughing in the kitchen, preparing Sunday dinner. It's the sound of a genuine family, built on honesty and respect. That sound is worth more than all the dollars we lost. Because in the end, the most valuable thing isn't money, but the authentic relationships we build and protect. And no one can ever take that away from us.